Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. I just woke Wally up because it's dinner time, so he's going to go have some dinner. But he's all bashful, man. He doesn't get up and run around in here anymore. But anyway, he's doing good, and Wally, say hi to everybody. Come on. Whee! That a boy. Anyway, everybody, welcome to Militiaman and Crew. And Wally complains a little bit here and there. Good boy, though. Hey, look, there's not a whole lot of data out, but we always have some because our Samson, she just rocks it on a regular basis and brings news every day. She rarely takes a day off. She's amazing, so I appreciate that. It says here that some people are getting a little bit nervous about articles. I'm going to show that sometimes articles can be taken more than one way. And sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not accurate. That's what we've been doing for all these years, is trying to figure out which way is the best, what makes the most sense, because it really isn't easy. Language barriers, agendas, all of those things come into play. And so today's, there's two articles that were out, and they are, one of them has to deal with the central bank of Iraq contributing to the dollar crisis. And this expert, his name is Mustafa Akram Hamtoush, and he says he's confirming today that July 29th that some decisions of the Central Bank of Iraq contributed significantly to the dollar crisis in the local market. Remember, the black market is an illegal market. Okay, so people can go to the banks legitimately and get the official exchange rate. If they're paying more, they're getting ripped off. Okay, do they need it? They might. Okay, but they're not getting it through official channels, and therefore the black market is making people still upset. But guess what? The black market is for who? A lot of them are traders and smugglers and other things. So anyway, he goes on to say that the central bank must search for realistic and real solutions to control the dollar exchange rate in a real way. And continuing these measures will lead to continued fluctuations, and this is the responsibility of the Central Bank of Iraq. So what they're saying is it's the responsibility of the Central Bank of Iraq for illegal behavior. Well, I personally disagree with that. Is it a component of the marketplace? Is it reality? Yeah, of course it is. But is it something that can be fixed? I believe so. Anyway, they go on and says the Central Bank of Iraq has completely banned the dollar from money changers except through the outlets at the airport or by purchasing through the bank's electronic window. I think I just said that. That's what they need to do. They need to play by the rules, legitimacy. Smugglers and certain traders on the black market, they're not doing that. And that's going to cease to end, I think. Basically, what has it done? It says it's made it difficult to obtain the dollar and has made it scarce for the black market traders and smugglers, which has led to its rise to about 18 dinars above the official price, and it is also expected to rise even higher levels according to observers. So effectively, though, that market would probably likely go away if the country adjust their currency to a real effective exchange rate to do exactly what we've talked about in the past, where Al-Sudani's talked about it in the past, Al-Alaq has talked about it in the past. The deletion of the zeros project has been underway. They have not said it's not anymore, but they have said it is. And so therefore you can safely assume that Al-Alaq's position at the central bank is not a new one. His focus is going to probably finish the process. Al-Alaq was around at a time where we should have probably seen it before we left to go to the AMF. We didn't, but his predecessor had the reins to get it done. He didn't. So So anyway, Al-Alaq, after a year or two, has come back, and he's been there for a year or two, and he's still trying to get this over the edge and done. Now, he was in Washington the other day, and I have a feeling that some of those articles suggested that his meeting was probably a little bit vocal. It was a little rough for him because he had some explaining to do, possibly. Because the fact remains is that it hasn't happened yet, and there is a job to get done, and I think it's going to be getting done. And now you see an article about Al-Sudani having meetings with the coordination framework in respect to the speaker. So are all these things going to be intertwined? I would say to some degree, of course, because going into an international market, opening up the trade at the borders around all of them in the region is good, and taking care of the projects to facilitate the development of roads, sustainable development. All of those things are going to need them to do things. And if they adjust their value of their exchange rate to a real effective exchange rate, a lot of the costs associated with, for instance, building 3 million houses, industrial cities, becomes a lot cheaper for them in the sense in dinar terms. So keep that in mind. I know there's some other people out there today that yesterday showed that good job. They did well because they focus in on, like, look, this is the last time I'm going to tell you about this. It's real. That deletion of the zeros project is real, and it's not a lot. Okay, so and that's what I said in my room a couple weeks ago. It's like we've been over this and over this and over this, but. And I'm sticking to that. So anyway, at this stage of the game, I believe that the governor of the central bank didn't get to his position to where he is today for being slack in his duties. I do believe that he has a very risky job, and the reason being is because what's in the news is they're actually telling us that there are factions, there are armed militias that are backed by some of the politicians even, and some of the bankers. Bankers are politicians. And so Al-Alaq has, over the years, has probably had to shed or walk a line that was very difficult and probably went against things like the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. Federal Reserve's requests. And so, but it's kind of come back down to that push comes, shove comes, right? Push comes to shove, something like that. And I think that's about where we are. Interestingly enough, today that there was an auction. The last couple of days have been really low in the amounts, cash, right? Why is that kind of important is because it's a total change of pace. It's happened before where it's reduced and has had reduction, but the last couple of days I think has been less than 20 million. And today specifically, there was only one bank involved. So it sounds like, the actions in some of this article and the next one I'm going to go over probably has a little bit of a component of be careful on what you read and where it's coming from, because ultimately I think that his credentials probably should be taken into consideration in this case, and then the credibility of some of the, say, the Ministry of Parliament or a Ministry of Parliament or the Integrity Commission, the Parliament's Integrity Committee, Parliament's Integrity Committee. A lot of the Parliament, you guys are have agendas, and I think all politicians do to some degree. So whether that's good or bad is to be not my topic, but the fact remains is this particular gentleman, his name is Hadi Al-Salami, right? So it's kind of funny. He sounds like he's got an Italian name, but he's an Iraqi. Parliamentary Integrity Committee threatens to hold the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq accountable. Transparency is absent in the dollar auction. I think this is a little bit of a twist in the sense of shedding some light that Al-Alaq is not doing his job, but in some shape or form, it's almost sounding like some of it's the truth. But the Central Bank of Iraq of not being transparent, so that he's, the Parliament Integrity Committee accused on Monday, Central Bank of Iraq, by not being transparent regarding the dollar auction and not providing data on the destinations where hard currency is spent, stressing that it will hold the bank's governor, Al-Alaq, accountable. Well, you guys realize that Al-Alaq has been working with the United States Treasury for a long time. They have a platform, it's electronic, and they have a good understanding of who's who and who's doing what, right? And they have been, and that's what's been making some people mad in the black market. And they're not happy about it. So here, this particular gentleman, Hadi Al-Salami, says there's a lack of transparency in the dollar auction, and the daily bulletin is not disclosed to know where the dollar goes and is sold through the auction. The bulletin is still secret, and only the amounts of dollars sold is announced, and we do not know where this money goes. So, does the Central Bank of Iraq know where the dollars goes? I would say so. Without saying so. And probably for good reason, okay. Not necessarily for good reason, probably for a safety reason, for Al-Alaq's safety, if you will. There's a parliamentary movement to hold the central bank governor, Al-Alaq, accountable, and the first step is to direct an oral parliamentary question, and we are waiting for his presence inside the Parliament Dome for the purpose of holding him accountable. There's an effort by some representatives to question the governor of the central bank, Al-Alaq, due to the failure, especially in the issuing of controlling the dollar exchange rate, which is still significantly higher in the parallel market than the official price. So there you have it, significantly higher in the illegal market. Okay, so they're upset, like I said. A number of representatives revealed that there's a parliamentary effort to question the Central Bank of Iraq, stressing that the dollar auction costs Iraq trillions of dinars and threatens the economy. So there you go. There's the truth. It sure does. It sure does. And that's been going on for years, and it's getting better and better and better as time goes under Al-Sudani's watch and under Al-Alaq's watch. As we just noticed today, for instance, one bank had $12 million, I believe, sold. Can't run a country on $12 million bucks a day, guys. Just can't. Not that I'm aware of. He goes on and says the legal committee, Rahid Al-Maliki, said the statement received by the news on July 9th, so this is dated. They continued the failure of the central bank and the government to achieve stability of the dinar, reduce the gap between the two prices, has led to the waste of huge sums of money and exacerbated the suffering of citizens. He's probably not wrong. The dollar auction is fraud, you guys, as far as I'm concerned, but they do it. They allowed it to happen, and it's taking time to rein it in, and they've been on a mission to do so, and it looks like they've made headway, and that's why you're seeing a lot of blowback, I think. Okay, the conditions resulted in the state incurring trillions of dinars and enriching the corrupt at the expense of the people, as the prices of most goods depend on the parallel price, which is much higher than other pricing. It goes on to say that this gentleman, Shenkali, calls for banning the dealing and trading in the dollars in buying and selling operations, in a move aimed at enhancing the use of the Iraqi dinar and reducing dependence on foreign currency. He also called for not allowing citizens to hoard amounts of exceeding $10,000 or its equivalent outside the banks in order to limit financial evasion and enhance official banking practices. So interesting that they're maybe pushing some pressure on that you can't have more than $10,000 out of the bank, and if that's even enforceable, that's going to be interesting, because that'll bring in a lot of extra cash into the system, where that they can loan monies for the projects that are investment projects, etc. Because when you do deposits, the banks can do their business the way that they do that, and especially the legitimate ones. So here we went on to say that's 10,000. This gentleman, by the way, you guys, there's an article that's out, and it was on, I think it's the 3/5/2024, and I believe it's May 5th, but it's backwards, so it's either March or May 3rd or vice versa, May 3rd. Wait, March 5th or May 3rd, 2024. It's Iraqi MP Hadi Al-Salami was sentenced, same guy just mentioned, for forged document changes. It says Iraqi Hadi Hassan Al-Salami has been sentenced to 6 months in prison and 1 million Iraqi dinars for or by the Kark misdemeanor court in Baghdad. So interesting that they bring that up. It's a misdemeanor. But he gets time for it, and he has to pay a fine. The court found him guilty of using forged documents and defaming the Ministry of Trade. So this article here, I think, is effectively somewhat, once again, at it, maybe, you know? The Integrity Committee, which he's part of, threatens to hold the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq accountable for any illegal market that's happening, and people are upset about it. So you go like, what? All right. So allegations against the Ministry of Trade date back to the late 2022 when Al-Salami, an independent MP, accused it of corruption and mismanagement. He claimed the ministry purchased low-quality food items at high prices for distribution among low-income Iraqis as part of the governor's food basket scheme, the government's food basket scheme. He also alleged the presence of imported Israeli products in the ministry's warehouses. So the court on that day, which was, I believe, the 3rd of May, 2024, the court today found Salami guilty under Article 331 of the Iraqi Penal Code for creating and using a counterfeit document purportedly from the Federal Board of Supreme Audit. Okay, so basically, sadly, but his credibility just kind of went out the door, right? And I think that we should be, like, again, just be careful in what we read. Every article isn't something that we need to got to do a little research and see what's going on and what's the background of it. And so, speaking from prison alongside Al-Salami, Mustafa Jabbar Sanad said that the judiciary had not removed Al-Salami's preliminary immunity before sentencing. Al-Salami pledged to continue his oversight responsibilities and despite the challenges. The reason why is because they didn't have, they don't have a need for lifting immunity because this is a misdemeanor. It's not necessary. It says that the misdemeanors do not necessitate lifting immunity. So that's probably why that amnesty law still always been a real struggle for the Iraqis, is because they don't seem to want to play by the rules, right? So anyway, progress is still going. I'm still totally bullish on where we're at. Finance Ministry discusses with the World Bank financing of transport and social development projects. Look, when the World Bank starts talking again today, gotta like it. What are they talking about? They're talking about, they're discussing ways to enhance cooperation in the field of economic and social development. Of course, that's a big thing. Yeah, the meeting's axis focused in on particular supporting transportation, railway, and infrastructure projects related to the development road linking Iraq and Turkey towards the European continent, in addition to the financing programs of the Social Fund for Development. These projects seek to improve the quality of services for citizens, enhancing economic growth, provide new job opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. The expected benefits of these projects are summarized in developing the road and transportation network, in addition to supporting small and medium enterprises and reducing poverty and unemployment. World Bank talking there. And of course, that's one of the small and medium enterprises are what? They're the backbone, effectively, of any good economy. It says here, the two sides expressed their optimism. Optimism is a key word. Something similar we just recently saw in another article about Iraq, about the possibility of reaching fruitful cooperation agreements that would contribute to achieving sustainable development in Iraq. Look, there's not, here and now, there's not only optimism for that oil and gas law we talked about the other day, to get that sorted, but now they're talking about the projects to move Iraq into the development road project, social and economic development. And then we had optimism that in the coming days, specifically, that the oil and gas law was to get sorted, and we should hear about that. So that's a big interesting concept today, because when the World Bank talks, when the WTO talks, when the Bank of International Settlements talks, the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve, they're all part of this, just like we wait for Al-Sudani to talk, and we wait for Al-Alaq to talk. So you get the picture. Here's this. In the presence of Al-Sudani, there's 3 files being the framework together at this nightly negotiating table. Mohammed Shia Al-Sudani is scheduled to hold an important meeting on Monday evening. I think that's past tense now, but anyway, the meeting of the framework leaders will discuss the issue of the position of the Speaker of the House of Representatives and agree to set a record date for holding the session to elect the president. So we're going to set a record date, so we're going to put it on record for what? Holding the session to elect the president. So despite the passage of more than 8 months, I think it's probably more like 9, but 8 months, fair enough. 9 is more than 8. So Sunni political forces have not succeeded in agreeing on an alternative candidate for the parliament speaker, Mohammed Halbousi. So the presidency hasn't been done in 8 months. So the parliament failed 5 times in a row to resolve the issue in light of the division between the political parties in supporting one of the candidates for this position, namely Mahmoud al-Mashadani, and the candidate of the Progress Party, and Salam al-Isawi, the candidate of the Sunnis Party, or the Sovereignty and the Azm and al-Hazm alliances, who obtained the majority of votes during the last parliament session. So it says a few days ago, these alliances, they all warned the Shia forces against continuing to obstruct the election of the parliament speaker. They talk about achieving Sunni-Sunni consensus as an attempt to obstruct the election of the Speaker of the Council of Representatives. Throughout the life of the political process in Iraq, there has been no consensus or agreement on choosing any of the 3 presidencies. But here we have what they're dealing with. They haven't done it yet, so Al-Sudani is hosting a meeting, or one of the nightly meetings that they must have, and it says that basically he needs to resolve this. That's what it sounds like. It's clearly important now that there is a resolution to the presidency that's needed quickly. There is a need to set a record date, which is, well, that's what they're talking about. I think that we shouldn't be surprised if Al-Sudani has an ultimatum for the Sunnis to get this done, or it may get done for them by the majority. The coordination framework has recently mentioned this to be a possibility to happen. I suspect with Al-Sudani having this meeting, it comes down to a push comes to shove situation. Basically, what I like about it, it's a pressure card. Al-Sudani is having to deal with it. I think it's a global issue. Is it an optics issue? It could be, because we all know that the truth is that the deputy speaker can still pass laws and get everything done that they need to do while they're waiting to do this. So now it's like one of those things, well, we have other things to do, and we'd like legitimacy to the government, so we need to get this resolved, and we need to do it now. That's how I see that, okay? So here we go. Iraq speeds up steps to the World Trade Organization. So we all know that the World Trade Organization isn't the end all, but we do know it seems to be somewhat of a barometer for where Iraq is with regard to trade. So anyway, today's article is interesting because it throws out a curveball in this particular one, but it is what it is. The Ministry of Trade has doubled its effort to join Iraq to the World Trade Organization after participating in a wide round of negotiations that paved the way for full membership. These efforts were met with widespread economic welcome, which sees its approach will achieve a package of important achievements, foremost of which is enhancing development, building capacities, and opening the door wide to use the highest standards of governance, in addition to the most important factor represented by the wide openness of global markets to Iraq, the advancement of the private industrial sector, and the improvement of the local product. That's a lot of word salad there, but hey, it's very important stuff. It says here the Ministry of Trade Dawood al-Hariri. The recent negotiations for Iraq constitute a qualitative event and a confirmation of what the government promised through its program to reform the economic situation, considering the private sector as an essential part and the backbone of the Iraqi economy. Small, medium enterprises, ring a bell? Yeah. Indicating that all the countries are keen on Iraq's return as a global economic player. They go on to talk about the UNCTAD, the World Trade Organization was in Istanbul, and they go through a little bit more information about all the different people that are involved. The process of Arab countries, it says, I might have missed this part, but it says the 13th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization, the process of Arab countries' accession to the organization, so they reiterated that, I missed it, and how Iraq will benefit from these experiences in this process of accession, the importance of trade in services and supporting the economies of Arab countries and enhancing their growth was also reviewed. So that's fascinating because there are about 8 countries, 12 I think total, that were scheduled or have on expectations per the WTO to have a session this year, not next year. Okay, not next year, this year. And I have a quote from that, and I have photographs of that from a member of the WTO's, I believe it's either their LinkedIn site or Twitter. Either way, X site. So anyway, the Prime Minister's Advisor for Financial Affairs, Dr. Mohammed Saleh, believes that in the midst of the changes in the international, commercial, and financial space, Iraq has moved to important organization levels in the transition to a market economy to break the effects of its international isolation by engaging in a strong area of economic liberalism that focused on liberalizing the areas of Iraq's foreign trade in goods and services and the means of financing them. Despite the fluctuations in its organization, as well as the development and expansion of areas of progress achieved in some financial services and improving the environment for foreign investment, which allows foreign banks to operate in Iraq and allows the transfer of capital and currency. You guys, that statement right there is, to me, is massive. My belief is when they say, which allows foreign banks to operate in Iraq and allows the transfer of capital and currency in a manner that serves Iraq's openness to the world in the conditions of difficult to handle central rentier economy. That to me means that they're looking to be willing to accept freedom of capital movement and currency. Fascinating, you guys. This is a good article. Iraq speeds up steps to join the WTO. But the bullet point in there, right there, is freedom of capital movement. So they go on to say Al-Hariri, he expressed his aspiration for the 4th round of negotiations to be held during the first quarter of next year. This acceleration means that the negotiations are proceeding with rapid steps towards Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization, considering that Iraq is an important economic bloc and all countries are keen for it to return to the economic player in a multilateral system. Okay, so he's talking about here that there's an aspiration for the 4th round of negotiations. So it's leading you to believe that they're going to be doing acceleration and they're going to go out to next year. That's not acceleration as far as I'm concerned. It's not at all. And one of the reasons why I don't believe it is, I'll share it with you, is because of, we know that there are, on July 12th, for instance, Working Party will be formally resumed on July 18th, 2024. Had a productive prep meeting with Baghdad's team in advance of their arrival in Geneva. And they're glad to see the readiness and excitement for this historic meeting. They are grateful for the dedication of the hardworking and capable of the Iraqi team. So it was formally resumed. So they were formally resumed. That sounds pretty big. Historic meeting. We haven't seen all the results on that yet, right? But hey, let's see what else they have to say before we get further along. It says joining has many other advantages besides opening up global markets. represented enhancing development, building capacities, open the door wide to using governance standards in all aspects of economic activities, in addition to the most important factor, which is opening global markets to the economies of the least developed countries, or what are called third world countries, not to mention improving the financial side of the participating countries in terms of reducing financial risks and removing obstacles facing the participating countries. Okay, so they're focused in on not just Iraq, but they're talking about a lot of countries, and so maybe that's why that gentleman was talking about specifically or mentioning a portion being in the fourth round, because that could not necessarily mean Iraq. It could mean many other countries, because there's about 8 Arab countries, and I think upwards of 12 total, and maybe less than that now because of Comoros and Timoros. It goes here to say that I already went over that historic meeting on this last page. Let me get to that. Is fascinating because I got a black and white picture, but you're not going to be able to see it. But I'll just show you this. There's some flags in here, okay, in this picture, if you guys can see that. And in those flags, you'll have a number of countries, and then there's names to those countries. If you look up flags on the internet, you'll be able to find out. But I'll save you some time. But you could do that. And you can see that Iraq is one of those flags that's in that photograph. And what are they talking about? It says N-Ol-Wila presented the latest annual report on the WTO accessions to the General Council, highlighting the forthcoming membership of and their post-accession support needs. Post-accession support needs could be that round of negotiations in 2025. It says here, it says the support needs, it says the accessions of all those flags, right, expected to advance in 2024. So that totally counters them not getting a session in 2024 by stating something to the effect of that he's looking forward to negotiations, the fourth round in first quarter of 2025. Again, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying I'm just not there yet with that, or what that totally means when he says it that way. So anyway, this is a good article. You guys can find all of this that I put together yesterday in Patreon.com with Militiaman and Crew, MMANDCREW, and you guys can take a look at that and see that we do support our work and we do the best that we can. And if we interpret it right, that's what we're here for. One of the things we have to remember too is that Saleh, he's the advisor to the Prime Minister. He's involved. Back on December 26th of 2023, I want to remind everybody that the government advisor says Iraq will enter the advanced digital era in early 2024. Well, we're a little further than early, but he adds that non-oil revenue agencies, which today are led by customs and tax authorities, border crossings and others, are at the forefront of financial and administrative reforms and trends. And so based off that, he says, in addition, the expertise of the United Nations Development and Trade Organization, especially in the sectors of digital development and border crossings, customs and taxes, will be involved. It says, he goes on to say, thus, at the beginning of the year 2024, Iraq will have entered the rapidly advanced digital era, and there will be a major official announcement in this regard. And that was the government advisor, Saleh. That is huge because what? It's already a year plus, right? Well, not quite a year. December 26th. No, sorry, forgive me. But hey, we're in almost heading into August. And so the expectations could come at any time. And we had an article that came out the other day that specifically said that they can't wait forever, and a move by the United States Treasury or the Federal Reserve can happen at any moment. And that's not in 2025, you guys. So that's huge, I think. And hey, everybody, I hope you guys liked my content today. And thank you again for all your support. And please hit that like button and subscribe. And all you guys that are still so kind to help out, we have PayPal, Zelle, and Venmo. So keep it coming. Thank you so much, you guys. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.